Hey, welcome to Life in the 1900s newspapers, where we really get into old newspapers. Today, we will be reading fascinating stories from 1930. They're really hot. Today's issue is the Fresno Morning Republican from Fresno, California, dated October 7th, 1930.
That paper you so casually put under your arm is full of information, opinions, and entertainment for you every day, if you know how to read it. Let's see how Bill Brent reads the evening paper. You decide if he's getting the most out of it. Mind if we watch, Bill?
Oh, no. Just don't bother me. That new center, Everett, he's going to make a real difference, you know? How do you like that? Yesterday, this guy fell off of a cliff. Now he lands in a tree without a scratch.
Are you, finished with the paper, Bill?
Sure. Sports, comics, I've read everything I'm interested in.
But what about the rest of the paper?
Yeah? Nothing else makes much difference to me. What? School board meets to consider new plan. Present Beacon Heights Stadium project called inadequate. They can't do that. They promised us a stadium.
Oh? Is that in the newspaper?
Sure, right there.
Maybe there are other things there, too, worth reading.
Well...
Come on. Let's spread the paper out, Bill. It doesn't take long to find out.
We've all heard of the Hindenburg disaster, but there was another disaster in 1930. Woman's shoe seen as clue to stowaway. A vast mass of twisted steel upon a storm-swept hillside failed to divulge to investigators of the British and French governments today how the world's largest dirigible airship, the British R-101, met disaster here in the early hours of Sunday, with the loss of 48 lives, among them at least 2 titled Englishmen. Tonight, after officials had pried and hewed their way into enormous bulk of the stripped and broken carcass, they seemingly were no nearer a solution of the greatest air catastrophes of all time than when dawn yesterday first brought them a sight of the still flaming ruin. That one and possibly 2 stowaways, one of them a woman, were on the R-101 became a prospective development after finding a woman's shoe with a buckle among the debris. Engineer Harry Leach, on duty as a pilot when the disaster occurred, said the craft had hit the ground once or twice before coasting to a full stop.
Cardington, England, 1930. Most of these men have a date with death. But in the elevator up the mooring mast, there's no hint of the Holocaust to come. From mast to ship, the crossing spans into another world. The R-101 is off on its maiden journey. First stop on the schedule, Italy. But fate is flying too. Beauvais, France, next morning. This was the pride of Britain's Air Force, the world's mightiest aircraft. Now a charred mass of metal and motors. In the torn and twisted wreckage, 47 dead. stunned British officers who inspect the remains search for the cause of disaster that flung the Queen of Britain's Air Force from the skies and sent nearly 100 of her crew on the long last voyage.
It was later found there were no stowaways on board. 48 of the 54 passengers were killed. Obliging caller loses grip, breaks legs. Kansas City, October 6th. Mrs. Loretta Verth lives in a second-story apartment, much to the sorrow of R.C. Schumann, 27. Schumann told police he was calling on Mrs. Verth when someone knocked. Mrs. Verth told police she was afraid to admit a friend while Schumann was about the place. Schumann graciously attempted to efface himself. Unfortunately, he lost his grip on a blanket suspended from the window. Today, he is in a hospital, suffering fractures of both legs. Alleged coat thief arrested by police. Joe Luna was lodged in the county jail last night on a petty theft charge following his arrest at the corner of Inyo and Cutner Alley. He had stolen a fur coat from a parked car belonging to Mrs. Hazel Green of Glendale. It is charged. The coat was later identified by Mrs. Green after Luna was brought to headquarters by motorcycle officer W.E. Ellis. Luna attempted to take leg bail, but lacked the necessary fleetness. I'm assuming leg bail means he ran for it. Ain't Science Wonderful from the Los Angeles Times. An incipient Luther Burbank is working on a new curve for bananas. Another has developed limes that shed their fruit when ripe, thus saving picking. And now somebody is trying to produce a self-cracking nut. He might observe the thing on the steering wheel for ideas.
Here. Editorial page, where opinions help us interpret the facts of the news. I found that for myself. And I found...
To the Republican. I read with interest Mr. Fidel's article in yesterday's Republican about men asking for rides on the highway. Having seen life from the viewpoint of the migratory worker, I would like to make a few comments. There is a common idea that the hobo is low and degraded, but I have found him more of a gentleman than one would think, especially so in regard to being courteous and respectful towards women. In my estimation, he well deserves the title Knight of the Road. His travels often in foreign lands and his lessons in the University of Hard Knocks gives him a knowledge which is not learned in books. The hobo has time to think and read if he wants to do so, and many of them take advantage of this opportunity. The moneyed man, whose time is so taken up with social and business cares, may look on the hobo with scorn, but I would rather be the hobo. In the parable of the sower, Christ gave good warning of how the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke out the seed of the kingdom. Hobos are like other people, good, bad, and indifferent. Some of them are selfish and bitter, while others are cheerful and warm-hearted. If there is a law which makes it a crime to ask for a ride, I expect it would be put over by the transportation companies. If nobody can get rides, it would make more money for the railroads and stage companies. Frank Judy, Fresno, California, October 4th, 1930.
Oh, it was fun shopping in the dump today. Geez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I do believe I've died and gone to heaven. Boy, that smog's getting worse every day. Well, that's not the peas, it's the smog. I'll gorge myself tonight. Beans. Oh, I love beans. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there's 3. One of them's moving. Well, everybody out now.
I laughed at sweethearts I met at school. All indiscreet hearts seemed romantic fools. A house in Iceland was my heart's domain. I saw your eyes, now castles rise in Spain. I took one look at you, that's all I meant to do. And then my heart stood still. My feet could step and walk, my lips could move and talk, and yet my heart stood still. Though not a single word was spoken, I could tell you knew that unfelt clasp of hands told me so well. You knew. I never lived at all.
And you know, I found out something else. You want to hear it?
Sure we do.
Okay, you asked for it. Well, it's like this. This paper. Well, the words were written by people about things that have happened in Washington, at the Capitol, or in our own community, perhaps at a... But wherever it happened, they were observed by people, and people wrote about them.